Okay, team, tonight we are going to look at chapter 18. This is called The Muslim World Expands, or as I like to call it, the Islamic Empires Strike Back. So the first thing we need to identify is the location of these Islamic empires. Now we're looking at three empires. We're looking at one that's primarily in the Middle East and Turkey, called the Ottoman Empire. The second in present-day Iran, called the Safavid Empire. And then the third in what is today India, Pakistan, and Afghanistan, called the Mughal Empire. So one of the things that these three empires have in common is when they became powerful. And it seems like it's always in the middle 1400s, and it seems like most of them can survive a couple hundred years. There is one exception to this rule. So think back. What is happening in the middle of the 1400s that would allow these empires to come to power? No. Keep thinking. Yes, the Mongols have been defeated, and with a power void, now new empires can come to power. So whereas the Mongols once took over all of these areas, except for India, now different kingdoms can rise in its place. So an important question we have to ask is, why is any of this important? Why do we have to know this? Well, these empires aren't around today anymore. The Mughal Empire has fallen, the Ottoman Empire has fallen, the Safavid Empire has fallen. However, what they have left us still exists, and that is art, buildings, and culture. Now, in this first picture, we see a mosque in Istanbul, in what is today Turkey. Now, this is a city that used to be called Constantinople. It became Istanbul when the Turks took it over in 1453. And this is a mosque called the Blue Mosque, because if you look carefully, you can see it has blue tiles throughout. So even though this empire has fallen, this mosque is still around today, so we can get a sense of what it must have been like to have been living during the time of the Ottoman Empire. Now, architecturally, we can look at this and see that the Ottomans are very focused on making a big structure. I mean, look at the size of the people in this picture versus the size of the building, and how tall the ceiling is, and really just how impressive it is on a scale size. Okay, so the Ottomans are all about size and really overwhelming you with just how big they can make their buildings. Now, this is part of the capital city in the Safavid Empire called Isfahan. You'll learn more about this week. And in Isfahan, the Safavids are trying to show you it's not really the size of what they're building, but it's the beauty of what they're building. And so you get a lot of very intricate and complex details. If you look in this bridge, you can see how symmetry really plays a role here. This is one of the prettiest cities in the world. Now, this structure can be identified by almost anyone on the planet, and it's the Taj Mahal. And it's built during this time period in India by a group called the Mughals. We'll talk all about this, but again, this is something that you can go visit today, even though the Mughal Empire has fallen. So again, it's not just about what they did while they were alive, but it's what has endured. And this architecture and this culture is still in all of these three places: in the Middle East, in Iran, and then lastly in India. Now, something to add to this, the Mughal Empire was known for its diversity. So if you look carefully at this, the shrine, it's really a tomb, you see three different styles. You see an Islamic style, you see a Persian style, and an Indian style all within one. So again, you see a lot of cultural differences that are all brought into one unique hybrid style here in the Mughal Empire. So Venn diagram time, what do these empires all have in common? Well, the first thing, they're all around at the same time, meaning they are contemporaries. They all have religious governments, so they are all combining religion and politics. Thirdly, all of these empires both made war, and they also both made art and architecture. So you can see that culture is important within all three empires. Even if the culture is different, even if the styles are different, they are all pursuing different types of culture. And lastly, they all have world-famous leaders, from the famous Suleiman in the Ottoman Empire to Shah Abbas and Shah Ismail in the Safavid Empire to the famous Akbar in the Mughal Empire. They all have a larger-than-life hero that current people in these three places can look back on and draw inspiration from. Now, they're also very different. Even though they're all religiously similar in that they all have a religious government and they're all Muslims, they have different levels of religious tolerance. Some of the governments are more open to different types of people living in their countries and their kingdoms and empires, whereas others are more intolerant, meaning you had to convert or die. As well, some of the empires are more Sunni in their Islamic following, and others are more Shia. And we'll talk about this difference tomorrow in class if you can't remember. Another thing that's different is that some of these empires last a very long period of time. For instance, the Ottomans last for 600 years, whereas the other ones, the Mughals and the Safavids, last barely 200 years. So again, there's some difference in terms of how long these empires are lasting. And then lastly, this concept of what is the legacy of each empire. Legacy meaning, how do people think back on the empires? For instance, the Ottoman Empire is known for its great tolerance, whereas the Safavid Empire is the opposite, and the Mughal Empire is somewhere in between. So really, history remembers these three empires in different ways. Our job is to figure that out. This video I hope you have liked.